The first year we were in existence, we had to move 5 times. When we moved out of my home, we moved into the Women's Club, to Embassy Auditorium, to the First Methodist Church, to the Encore Theater, where we stayed for a year and 3 months. We bought the property at 22nd and Union. We got to stay there for about a year and a half, and then someone arsoned our building, and it burned down to the ground January the 27th of 1973.
The board of directors were there at the church while it was still burning. Within a few minutes, there was a large crowd gathered.
I was home, and Frank Zerilli called me.
We all got phone calls.
And said, I'm standing across the street from the church and nothing's there. It was horrible. It was horrible. They took it away.
Yeah, they took away the building, but they certainly didn't destroy the church, did they?
They sure did.
It really made, for me, made me see the distinction between the church, which is the building, and the church, which is the people.
Yeah.
You know, there were two different things.
The piano was a disaster. It was sitting on the sidewalk when my other half and I came down the next morning. Told me that everything was, the keys were like this, and it was just a mess. And I looked inside, and someone said, "Get away from that piano." I said, "Why?" He said, "You might damage it." I always try to find humor in everything.
We decided that we would hold services right out in the street.
I couldn't believe the people that showed up. Wasn't there about 200 people?
And all those neighbors across the street, in a Latino neighborhood, and they took their folding chairs, the lawn chairs, they were all out there and just supported us and worshiping with us. It was really great.
There's a song, I'm trying to think of what it is. Jimmy saw it to us. Cherish my children, live in the sunshine, will understand about by. Farther along. That's
further along.
I think, you know, as yes.
You sing it, sister.
And I think it was, that's what, for me, got us through. And it was, we didn't understand why this happened. Why would somebody hate us so much that they would do that? You know?
Every time you talk about something.
But it was also, to me, it's like we were out in the sunlight for the first time in service, out in the open. And it was like God saying, come out, children. Just come out. You'll understand it by and by, you know, farther along. No, Mr. Chris.
No,
But it's like, it was a tragedy.
Yeah.
It did not stop us. It didn't.
Made us
in fact,
stronger.
it made us stronger.
right.
It made us even more determined to be
hurt, but it
who
made us
we were,
stronger.
despite everything else.
When I became pastor, we were not sure still how AIDS was transmitted. Okay. So there were fears about communion and about casual transmission. And, I always say, well, if it was casual transmission, I'd have been dead 6 months ago. I would say to people, but the tears and bodily fluids that I experience every single week and day in MCC. And so it was kind of walking by faith, not by sight, about we just had to be radically present to people who were ill and dying and not care and not worry about ourselves. And people coming to church sicker than you see people in public, which was wonderful because they felt safe enough to come here with their IV poles or their, laying on a pew or, after church on Sundays, oftentimes we had our teams, and our Sunday we had 3 morning services, 3 with the Latin service, and between then and the 6 p.m. service, we would just all fan out and go to all the hospices we could go to, especially the ones where we knew were poor people who had no one else to visit them. We purchased the property in Culver City, and there were 2 houses on that property. One went to Samaritan, and the other we used for an organization called Caring for Babies with AIDS, the first of its kind on the west coast of the United States, the first facility to accept babies from infancy to age 5 who were HIV infected. The first baby arrived the first day the place opened. a car pulled up in the alleyway, got out. Danny Mahoney was there, Reverend Danny Mahoney, my assistant, and they thrust a little baby girl in his arms and sped away. Probably we did 300 or, I don't know, or more funerals. I attended more than that. We were having our own Holocaust and, participating in many arrests and many kinds of civil rights demonstrations, and was really, it was a galvanizing force. It gave the church a strong sense of its outreach and mission. It never occurred to me that MCC would falter or not be here. And when I think of the loss of the number of clergy who died, the number of lay leaders who died, and how we just had to keep absorbing and being there for the next wave and being there for the next wave.
Have any of your close friends died with AIDS, Steve?
Yes, they have.
And that's got to do something to you when that happens.
It does. I almost died myself
Ma.
2 weeks ago. I had my adrenal glands failed.
When I got well, I recovered miraculously. Thanks be to God. I became the field director of AIDS ministry for the MCC denomination. And I traveled throughout the world preaching and teaching about hope in the face of all the hopelessness, life in the face of all the death. That if God is greater than the death of Jesus on the cross, then God is greater than AIDS or anything else that keeps us from being fully alive.
Paula and myself and Norm Mason got in a car and we drove through LA at probably 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:30. And we tried to take a non-freeway route because we knew the freeways were down. And, we saw buildings all the way, going across town west. And then you come down this one road, I can't remember which it is, and you're supposed to see the dome. And, of course, there was nothing, it was just sky. And then we got there. The interesting thing was that night I had a flight to South Africa, which this was right before the end of apartheid, literally months. Mm-hmm. I was going to a World Council of Churches Central Committee meeting in Johannesburg, and a World Council meeting, and it was my first time to do that in that context and in South Africa, and I'm standing with the board of directors and people out front of the tremors are still coming. People are running into the building and getting archival-like things out, risking their lives, really. And we're all just trying to figure out what to do. And the board said, "We'll take care of it. We'll find a place to meet next week. You go." So I returned about 2.5 weeks later, and Reverend Laurie Dick met me at the airport. Said, "Here's the keys to your new office. Here's the directions to where we are now." And see you tomorrow morning. We're going to be preaching. And come back, and we were at that point meeting in the soundstage.
Do you think that coming through the AIDS crisis galvanized the leadership in such a way that they were able to deal with a crisis like that?
I think in MCCLA, from maybe the earliest days of having the fire, and it's. I think this is a community that easily rises to the occasion, steps up, does whatever it takes. I don't think I'd ever have any question. Something happens, people will do whatever it takes. And, that's generations of leaderships here that will do that, can do that.